Welcome to one of the most interesting projects involving economic forecasts of any type. Here we are using something known as remote viewing to predict certain digital information accurately over a forecast period of 3 months. Now this forecast focuses on the cryptocurrency known as Bitcoin, and the forecast period is from August 15th through November 15th, 2018. Now, remote viewing is a mental process that allows for the transfer of information across time and space. I'm Courtney Brown, director of the Farsight Institute, where we conduct a broad range of experiments using remote viewing in a large variety of settings and across a great many topics. Now, remote viewing was originally developed by the United States military and used for espionage purposes. However, Farsight is civilian, and we use remote viewing for scientific investigations and for exploration. So predicting digital information has always been a serious challenge for remote viewing, and this is due to the nature of the physics involved. But there have been advances in our understanding of the phenomenon, and we now believe that we have the capability to do just that, using a new experimental design that resolves many of the issues encountered in past research. So this is our second 3-month forecast for Bitcoin. Our first 3-month forecast ends on the day that this current forecast is being released, which is August 15th, 2018. Our first 3-month forecast went exceptionally well, and the forecast and an analysis of that forecast is freely available both on our website and on YouTube for all to see. In terms of a quick rundown of what happened, we hit the high and low prices of Bitcoin between May 15th and August 15th spot on. We predicted a 24% drop and a 21% rise in Bitcoin. Now, as it happened, the drop in the price of Bitcoin occurred first in our forecast period. Now, given that the low happened first, the predicted low for the price of Bitcoin was $6,496, and the actual low price of Bitcoin turned out to be $5,809 on the 24th of June, which was a 31% drop. Now, our 24% prediction was quite close, and it was designed to undershoot the actual drop a bit, which it did as planned. Now, the predicted rise in the price of Bitcoin was 21% of our May 15th reference price, or $1,795. So, starting from our predicted low price, since that price happened first during the forecast period, this yielded a predicted high price of $8,291. Now, the actual price during the 3-month forecast period was $8,314 on July 24th, which we missed by only $23. Now, you may think that's great, but hitting it this close is not actually what we want, although it did work out in this instance. We normally like to undershoot a bit more so as to reduce the risk associated with price prediction, enabling an investor to keep the lion's share of the gain without overshooting. Nonetheless, overall, the first forecast worked out very well. I encourage you to go to our website or our YouTube channel, Farsight Press, to see the full analysis of the Bitcoin results so that you can understand how all the numbers are calculated. So this current forecast, which you are now watching, extends the Bitcoin forecast another 3 months, from mid-August through November 15th, 2018. But before we begin, it is important that you understand our disclaimer. No one at Farsight is a licensed financial advisor, so anything that anyone at Farsight does that relates to using remote viewing to predict financial or economic outcomes of any type, including the selling prices of cryptocurrencies, is done for entertainment and educational purposes only. Everyone doing investments are doing so at their own risk. These are experiments in remote viewing, and there are no guarantees or warranties being made, either explicit or implied. Nonetheless, these efforts are truly interesting on a grand scale, and I personally believe that after we do this for a while, it will be really hard for anyone to ignore the reality of remote viewing. So, now on to our new forecast for Bitcoin. First, we have some background. We have 2 primary methods of analyzing remote viewing data when making forecasts. The first is called complexity analysis, and that is what we did for our first very successful Bitcoin forecast. And as you just saw, it is often very useful in making actual price predictions. Now, the second approach to analyzing our remote viewing data is called contextual analysis. Now, contextual analysis is useful for determining behavioral characteristics of price changes, including trends, Now, we sometimes find that contextual analysis is better understood by some investors since it does not rely on investors making percentage calculations during a potentially volatile forecast period. Instead, contextual analysis focuses on the types of price changes, market volatility, and whether a price or a drop in a price will dominate during a forecast period. Sometimes we do both forms of analysis, although that does run the risk of making the forecast even more technical and complicated. But for this forecast, we are going to analyze the remote viewing data using both contextual analysis and complexity analysis. We seem to be heading into a really interesting period for Bitcoin. And in my opinion, given the results that we obtained, contextual analysis will better describe the behavior of the price changes that we are heading into for this forecast period. So I think most of you will agree once you see the data and hear the analysis. The contextual analysis is easy to interpret, and it basically tells the investor if it is a good idea to buy or hold onto a currency or to drop it before it's too late. Especially when the changes are predicted to be as dramatic as this new forecast suggests they will be, contextual analysis really helps to put things into perspective. But I will also include complexity analysis, and this will allow me to make some price forecasts as well. I will also attempt to blend both complexity and contextual analyses into the overall forecast in situations where it's most useful. Basically, using remote viewing, we obtain descriptive information for a target or location that relates to a currency's future price behavior. And the nature of that descriptive information depends on the qualitative characteristics of the price changes. Now, we can control what the remote viewer sees in this regard since we create our targets using computer-generated CGI software after the forecast period ends. So after we see the type of descriptive information that is obtained using remote viewing, we know how the data will be analyzed using our predetermined rules for analyzing the data. Thus, since we know how the rules will be applied once the forecast period is over, we know the pricing behavior of the cryptocurrency before the forecast period starts. So this uses a method known as masking with remote viewing, where there is a one-to-one mapping between a description of a physical location and the financial behavior of a cryptocurrency. So using a mask to interpret remote viewing data is a bit like interpreting a dream or story allegorically, and when it is done well, this approach to masking can be remarkably accurate. For example, physical features and characteristics that are perceived by a remote viewer to be at a target location, those represent certain things in our rules, and seeing what happens to those things in the data help us to know what will happen to the things relating to the cryptocurrency's pricing. You will also notice that the remote viewers do not always describe the same scene. Now, this is part of the experimental design. The rules that we use to evaluate the data are the same for all remote viewers, but they can perceive different scenes in their sessions. So there is no requirement for the viewers to have complete overlap in terms of the exact physical elements that they see in their sessions. The overlap occurs in the interpretation of their data with respect to the rules of the target creation process. So after you see the remote viewing data that we will use as the basis for this forecast, I will step you through how we analyze the data. We have also made improvements in the way we present our results so that the results should be more easily understandable to everyone in a practical buy and sell sense. If this sounds complicated, well, just don't worry about the specifics of the process. Rather, follow the results and evaluate the experiment based on the accuracy of the outcomes. Now, each remote viewer examines two targets in this forecast. The first target applies to the high price of Bitcoin during the forecast period, and that is target 4A. The second target applies to the low price of Bitcoin during the forecast period, and that is target 4B. The remote viewers are among the absolute best on the planet currently, and they are Aziz Brown, Princess Janae, and Melina Hall. All three have been working full-time with remote viewing for a great many years, and all three have outstanding public track records in a great many public experiments done here at Farsight. Working blind and with no communication between the viewers regarding any of the results for this project, this is as good as it gets. We start with the results for currency target 4A, which relates to the high price of Bitcoin over the forecast period. Now, the sessions are all very short, since the viewers are summarizing data that they obtained while conducting sessions using paper and pen. So this is not live remote viewing as we do with our Time Cross and Mysteries projects. Rather, these are summaries of what the viewers got, and this will allow me to step you through the analysis of the data. So beginning with Aziz Brown, then Princess Shanae, and then Melina Hall, here are the perceptual data for target 4A. Again, these data correspond to the high price of Bitcoin over the 3-month period from the 15th of August 2018 through the 15th of November 2018.